everybody. Dan Illman, Mike here. The DRF race of the day for Saturday, February the 24th, a very important Kentucky Derby prep. It's down at Oaklawn Park, carded as race number 11. Let's throw up this full field for the Grade 2, $1.25 million Rebel Stakes, going a mile and a 16th. It's the 3-year-old debut of Timberlake. The number 7 won the Grade 1 Champagne last year, was 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but he can't just strut in here thinking that just on his accomplishments as a 2-year-old, he's going to walk over this group. This is a hungry group of up-and-coming horses. Timberlake's going to have to improve a little bit from a professionalism standpoint.
I mean, I'll agree with that, Dan. I mean, it's obviously a perfectly good spot for him to come back in, especially when you start looking at his last 2 races as a 2-year-old, where he paired up 93 buyers that just sort of stand out in this field at this point. So it's a good spot for him. That doesn't mean that I'd be falling all over myself to take a short price on him in this race.
Let's throw up the Timeform US Pace Projector. Timberlake has a tendency not to get out of the gate great. He did better in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last time out. He likes to pull. I think if this pace is fast, it could help Timberlake, because I don't think he wants to go with a speedster like Time for Truth. Tejan Pass, the number 4, also has speed. He could sit in a good spot 3rd or 4th.
I mean, I won't disagree with this pace projector. I did sort of feel like this pace could be pretty quick. There was plenty of speed in here, and you have some horses drawn to the outside who might just have to come out running, looking for a spot. Dan, to be honest with you, I'm not sure if it really helps or hurts Timberlake, because as you mentioned, last year he wasn't exactly a super professional.
3, Common Defense. Note the LP flag over his chiclet. That means this 30-to-1 shot has the fastest Timeform US late pace rating, and he could potentially benefit if this pace is very strong. And one of the pace protagonists figures to be the number 1 Carbone, who won his first 2 starts in gate-to-wire fashion. They tried him in the Southwest last time out, and he was sort of in between horses, but he was one of the first pace horses to just tire very badly. I thought it was a disappointing performance. He was the beaten favorite that day. Maybe the wet track excuse you can give him?
Yeah, maybe you can, especially since he was less than 2-to-1 in that race, and he's 15-to-1 on the morning line for this race. I mean, I think it's fair enough at a price to want to be at least a little lenient on the most recent start. As bad as he was, and he was bad. It was on a wet track, and he just maybe didn't like it because his first 2 starts were both really good. They make him a contender in here. He's got the rail. He's got speed. I'm just going to suspect that he'll run a lot better this time.
Are you concerned about the distance? We saw him win at a mile, 2 starts back with the short stretch at Oaklawn. He was kind of getting out a little bit at the end. So now he's going to have to go a mile and a 16th with other speeds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about it mostly because it feels like there could be a lot of pace for him to have to deal with once again in here. But listen, they stretched him right out for his second start, a 2-turn mile, and it's not like he walked on the lead that day. That pace was solid, and he kept going.
Northern Flame is the number 2. This horse has tried graded stakes competition 2 previous occasions last year. It didn't work out. Maybe he's slowly maturing. Here's his most recent start, and now winners at 2 Life over a good track at Oaklawn, again with the short stretch. He showed speed in here. He digs down very gamely to win, but note this was first-time Lasix. The Lasix has to come off in the Rebel.
Yeah, exactly. I just liked this performance because he used his speed early to secure the inside, and he took pressure up there. This runner-up, who's also back in this field, had a perfect trip and a clear shot at him, Dan, and he just wouldn't let that horse get by. So I appreciated that performance. It's worth noting that the race 2 back off the little left there, he stumbled badly at the start and did not run poorly at all in that race behind Carbone. This horse is headed in the right direction. His Grade 1 last year around 2 turns, he ran fine in there.
The 3 is Common Defense. This is the horse with the fastest late Timeform US pace rating. A winner from off the pace 2 starts back in a maiden race, going the mile with the short stretch. He was 5th in the Southwest, kind of made a brief move and then flattened out. There's still upside.
There is. He also, in that Southwest last time, he got into a lot of early traffic and sort of wound up getting sort of shuffled back out of contention in there. I really feel like he did more running than it may even appear on paper last time. And I also really liked his maiden win 2 starts back. I thought he did a lot of good things in there and came with a really good finish at the end of that race. This race sets up perfectly for him. He could take a step forward here at a big price.
Tejan Pass is the number 4. This horse is already multiple stakes placed sprinting. No match for Nisos in Southern California. Ran a little better in the Renaissance sprinting 2 starts back. He got cooked in a race against Woodcourt, who's also in this spot last time out going a mile. I think distance is going to be okay for him. I just think the surface isn't going to be what his future holds. He looks like a synthetic horse.
That might be true. I'm not going to disagree with that. I do think that you're right, though, to maybe want to be a little lenient on his most recent start. That race totally fell apart and went to closers, two of whom are back in this race. This horse was contesting it all the way around in there, and he just got tired in the stretch.
Magic Grant, the number 5, was a stakes winner two in his second lifetime start sprinting at Remington. He's caught wet tracks in his last two, and perhaps most notably about the Southwest, he just missed the break, and that probably put him way behind and just couldn't give much of a chance. He was also 45-1 that day and needs to prove he fits with these kind of horses.
Exactly. I mean, even if you don't care about the Southwest, the races 2 and 3 back, and they're fine performances. They're both also races that had really fast paces, perfect setups for this horse, and obviously took advantage and won. But he had a great setup on the Springboard Mile 2 back, and he just wasn't good enough to take advantage of it, Dan. That bothers me.
Steve Asmussen has a very well-bred son of Gun Runner up next. That's the 6 Dematic. He's a foal to Dreamlike, who placed in both the Wood Memorial and the Pennsylvania Derby. Here's his most recent performance, a maiden special weight, his third lifetime start. He got a good pace to rally into, Mike. He's going to draw away late. Asmussen's going to put the blinkers on off of a win.
Yeah, he needs them. You'll see right here mid-stretch that he's just going to see something, and I don't know what it is, and he's going to shy really badly here. And maybe almost cost himself a win, perhaps. I mean, he just didn't know what he was doing there, but he recovered and he went on with it and got the job done. So I'll just assume that's why the blinkers are on. He's got to take another step forward here, but maybe he can do it. He seems like he has some potential.
Timberlake, the number 7, is the big favorite. He's the horse to beat for trainer Brad Cox. He won the Champagne 2 starts back on a wet track. He looked good that day. In the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, he broke a lot better. He settled in mid-pack. He was pulling a little bit in the early stages. That pace just wasn't very fast. It didn't come back to him. He was trying hard in the stretch, sort of a one-paced fourth.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean, did he run that well in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile? I don't know, man. I didn't think that he did in that race. He didn't get a great trip, but he didn't get a terrible trip either. And to me, at the end of the day, despite being maybe a little wide in that race, he just wasn't good enough. And it never looked like he was going to be a real factor in that race. I respect what he did as a 2-year-old. I do think there's some talent here. I think there's a lot of potential, and I sort of like all the intangibles about him. Again, I don't think he's the kind of horse I'm going to be dying to take a short price on in this race.
Next Level, in number 8, earned a grade 1 placing as a maiden sprinting in Southern California last year. That was in the Del Mar Futurity, and although he has graduated since that race, I'm not sure he's really taken a step forward. He was whipped in the American Pharoah. He was whipped in the Gun Runner 2 starts back. His last performance was a good effort when they dropped him into a non-winners at 2 Life. Maybe they found the right tactics for him coming from off of it.
Yeah, they took him way back. He did get bumped both sides at the start of that race. So that might have had something to do with him, being way back off the pace in there. But it did work out. But it worked out for him in a race that totally went to closers. I mean, the race totally fell apart. We'll see the replay in a little bit, Dan. He had to come around to the outside. Woodcourt got through on the inside. And then this horse sort of just missed at the end. It still wasn't the kind of performance that made me want to bet him back in this race.
Lagios, number 9, was a winner 2 starts back at Churchill Downs. That was an off-the-turf race. So his 2 wins now have come turf sprint, off the turf heat. They ran him in the Smarty Jones last time out. I was a bit surprised he showed as much speed as he did in that start. He tired that day. I don't think we have to worry about him on the lead in here. He's not as fast as some of the speedsters that are going to be gunning from the gate.
Yeah, right. Maybe that's one of the reasons to be a little considerate of him in here. Dan will get a different trip this time, and maybe it could work out a little better for him. He's another horse in here who obviously he's got to find a way to just improve and run a faster race, but maybe he can do it.
Mania is the number 10. He's a full brother to Caddo River, who had some success at Oaklawn. I believe he won the Smarty Jones a couple of years ago. This horse was the one that got rebuffed by Northern Flame last time out. It was a solid enough performance. He has won twice, but a maiden claim or a starter allowance, so he's got to do a little better.
He does. I mean, he got a great trip in that race last time. He did take a step forward. I'll give him credit for that. He won his prior 2 dirt starts. He improved again last time, but he had a perfect trip. He had dead aim on Northern Flame, and he could not get by him, and Northern Flame is not the horse to beat in here.
Mr. Lucas has Just Steel in this race, and not only does he have the recency edge over Timberlake, he seems to like this track. I thought he ran really well in the Southwest. He was 3 wide around both turns, Mike. He's going to take the lead here, and just a horse that saved every inch of ground. Mystic Dan's going to run by him. Now, Just Steel's getting tired at the end. He's no match for Mystic Dan, and I think the question is still out there. Even though he finished ahead of 3 of these rivals in the Southwest, does he truly want to be a 2-turn horse? I love him in the Pat Day Mile right now.
Yeah, it's fair to wonder what his distance limitations are. Overall, he fits right in with these horses. His good race makes him a major contender. And unfortunately for him, he's got the outside again. He's got a ton of speed to his inside again. So he might get the same trip that he just got in the Southwest. That being said, if he runs the Southwest back, can he win this race? He probably can.
He probably can. He's just been compromised by 3-4 wide trips in his last 2 races. Sure looked good in that 6.5 Churchill race, 3 starts back. Woodcourt is up next, and Woodcourt's coming into this race on a little bit of a streak. He's won 2 in a row, including this optional claimer for 100 grand. He was first off of the claim, and Woodcourt skims the wood to win. Lasix off on Saturday.
Great ride in this race with the rail opening up. This is the replay we're talking about. That's the next level. He's widest. He had to come down the outside. This horse gets through on the inside, and he's just going to get there. You're going to see the wire cover. He's going to get saved by the wire. He's first. Woodcourt is our next level is second. The horse that was in between them, who finished third, he probably ran the best race.
Time for Truth is up next. He's our number 13, and he's got to show speed from the far outside post. A, he's just a naturally fast horse. B, to extricate yourself from post 13, going 2 turns for the first time, you've got to go. Look good in his debut sprinting. Then they ran him the Ozark Stakes last time out, and maybe the wet track was an excuse. Other than that, I thought he had things pretty much in his own way on the lead, and he just was second best.
Yeah, he just faced a really good sprinter at this race in Valentine Candy, and he's only second best to that horse, but he runs fine. His debut was good. This performance is fine. They're going to try to stretch him out here, and it's unfortunate for them that they drew this post because it really, really works against him.
It's a little bit tired at the end, but only a second lifetime start. Before we take a look at our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Let's take a look at our top picks for the Rebel. I'm probably going to be sitting on my hands in this race, evaluating Timberlake for the future. I think they found a good spot for his 3-year-old debut. I think Just Steel is going to run well, but I don't think there's a ton of value there. Talk about your horses, because that's where the prices come from.
Yeah, I want to try Common Defense in here just because I feel like he ran an underrated race last time in the Southwest. I really liked his maiden win, 2 starts back, and I think there could be a pretty good trip coming for him in here, Dan, with some pace in front of him. And I like the way he finishes in his races. So 30-1 on the morning line. I'm going to take a shot with this horse and hope that he improves. I'm rooting for Timberlake to be a good horse. I just don't want to bet him in here.
3167 for Mike, 711 139 for me. It's the Rebel. Very important Kentucky Derby prep. Race number 11 at Oaklawn Park on Saturday. Best of luck.